Just enjoy and listen to, and have a fun of it.
Wow. Just have fun. Story. Radio station. Yeah. And hey, before we really dive in today, please make sure you hit that subscribe button, give us a like, and definitely turn on notifications. You won't want to miss the insights we've got lined up.
We really appreciate it. So today we're doing a deep dive into something you're probably hearing about, maybe even watching right now. The incredible global explosion of K-content. We're talking K-dramas, K-movies, the whole package.
Absolutely. It feels like, well, everywhere you look, people are talking about Korean shows and films. But, this didn't just happen yesterday. It's been quite a long journey, pretty complex, actually, from being mostly a regional thing to this global cultural force. And honestly, our curiosity about that specific journey, like how did we get here? That's really what sparked this whole deep dive for us.
Right. And our mission today, it isn't just about celebrating this success, which is huge, obviously. We really want to unpack the strategy behind it, the creative genius, what makes K-content tick.
Yeah, the DNA of it.
Exactly. But importantly, we also need to look honestly at the big challenges the industry's facing right now. Things like, well, costs that are just skyrocketing and the really critical issue of creator rights.
Okay, so let's unpack that history then. Like we said, it wasn't overnight. It seems like we can break down this expansion, this Hallyu or Korean wave, into maybe three main waves.
That's a great way to look at it, yeah. The first wave, let's call it Hallyu 1.0, that was roughly from 1997 to about 2007. And this phase was very much focused regionally, mainly across Asia.
Right, and didn't that kind of kick off with a Korean drama broadcast in China back in 97? I remember reading that somewhere.
That's often cited as the key starting point, yeah. That broadcast on CCTV really opened the doors in major Asian markets, China, Taiwan, Vietnam. It built that foundational fan base.
Okay.
But it's critical to remember, Hallyu 1.0 wasn't only TV dramas. This period also saw Korean films starting to get real critical recognition outside Asia. You have to think about classics like Oldboy in 2003.
Oh, yeah. Huge impact.
Massive. It really helped establish Korean cinema as, serious artistic work, not just something regional. Laid the groundwork.
Okay, so that sets up the next phase. Then things shifted quite dramatically with Hallyu 2.0, maybe from around 2008 to 2017. This is when digital really starts playing a role, right?
Exactly. This is the era of K-pop stars really hitting the global stage. And crucially, digital platforms like YouTube and the early social networks becoming major distribution channels.
Ah, so that's how it started reaching beyond Asia.
Precisely. That digital shift allowed K-content to start finding audiences in places like Europe and North America. And it wasn't just dramas and films anymore. You started seeing growth in online games, animation too.
Got it. Now, this next part, this is where it gets really interesting for me. Hallyu 3.0. From around 2017 to today, this is the OTT era. The streaming era.
This is the game changer. You've got the huge global streaming platforms, Netflix, Disney Plus here, you name it, starting to heavily invest in and distribute Korean content directly into homes worldwide.
And the subtitles and dubbing became standard. High quality.
That was key. Suddenly, the language barrier just sort of dissolved. Accessibility went from being a bit of a hurdle to completely seamless. Anyone could watch.
And the absolute peak, the moment everyone noticed, has to be Parasite winning the Oscar in 2019. And then Jung winning for Minari shortly after.
Huge milestones. That really solidified K-content in the global consciousness as, well, high art. Not just pop culture, but prestigious award-winning stuff. Cemented its dominance.
So, okay, the platforms helped, obviously.
Yeah.
But they host content for everywhere. What was the secret sauce for K-content? Why did it break through so spectacularly? Let's dig into that creative DNA.
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Analytically speaking, a huge factor is that K-content often avoids those, let's say, more traditional or sometimes formulaic Western story structures. It's the innovative storytelling quality.
Can you give some examples? Like, what techniques make it feel different?
Well, they're masters at using things like non-linear timelines, really deep, sometimes quite challenging character arcs, and crucially, genre blending.
Ah, yeah, the genre blending is huge.
It really is. A show is rarely just one thing. You get these incredible mixes like horror combined with sharp political commentary or a sweeping historical drama suddenly throwing in zombie action. They're brilliant at mashing up genres in fresh ways.
That's definitely a signature.
And maybe the most powerful element is this: the power of specificity. K-content often dives really deep into very specific Korean social issues.
Right.
The intense hierarchy, the pressures related to cables or big family conglomerates, generational divides.
Okay, but hang on. That sounds almost counterintuitive. If it's so specific to Korea, why does someone in, I don't know, Brazil or France connect with it so strongly?
That's the fascinating paradox. By drilling down into those very specific, very Korean anxieties about class, about hierarchy, about family pressure, they somehow tap into universal human themes. Family struggles, identity crises, power dynamics, audiences everywhere recognize those, maybe just in different forms in their own societies. That sharp social critique is actually a massive draw.
Huh. So that saying, the most Korean is the most global, that really holds true here.
It absolutely does. And then you pair the sophisticated writing with genuinely world-class production quality. The investment levels are enormous, and it shows on screen.
Right. It looks amazing. Is it just throwing money at it, or is there a real technical skill involved?
It's both, for sure. There's serious money, yes, funding advanced visual effects, top-tier cinematography, really complex sound design. You see it in things like the CG in shows like Kingdom, or the incredibly detailed sets for the historical dramas, the Sejuk.
Yeah, those sets are incredible.
And the camera work is often very dynamic, very cinematic, but it's also the artistry behind using those resources effectively. This meticulous attention to detail creates this consistently high quality.
And we can't ignore the talent costs. Those star actor fees. They're pretty eye-watering, aren't they?
Oh, definitely. Just the casting costs can run from, say, a minimum of KRW 40 million up to well over KRW 100 million. That's tens of thousands of US dollars, potentially over 100,000 per episode for top stars. So yeah, the high production value, driven by both investment and skill, lets them take creative risks while still delivering something that feels like a global blockbuster.
Okay, so summing up part one, K-content success really boils down to this potent mix of incredibly innovative storytelling and massive investment delivering that cinematic quality right to your TV or phone.
Good evening, and welcome to the Story Radio Station, where we explore tales from around the world.
Investment delivering that cinematic quality right to your TV or phone. Welcome back to the Deep Dive with Dexter and Claire. So in part one, we talked about how K-content reached global dominance, that perfect storm of timing with OTT platforms and its unique creative flair.
Right, the Hallyu 3.0 moment combined with that signature storytelling.
Exactly. Now, let's pivot a bit. We need to look at the economic reality that this success has created and maybe the shadows that are starting to appear behind those huge financial numbers.
Yeah, because this is much more than just a cultural trend now. It's a genuine financial powerhouse. It's completely shifted Korea's position from being mainly a cultural importer to a major exporter.
And the numbers, I mean, they're just kind of mind-blowing when you look at them.
They really are. Get this. Content exports leaped from about $1.3 billion back in 2005 to an incredible $13.34 billion in 2023.
Wow, a tenfold increase in less than 20 years.
A tenfold explosion, exactly. And in terms of the bigger picture, the industry's contribution to Korea's national GDP is significant. Estimates put it somewhere between 2.6% and maybe 3.7% of the total. That's substantial.
Okay, but it's not just about the direct money from selling shows, right? There's that soft power aspect, the ripple effect.
Oh, that ripple effect is immense. K-content acts as this incredibly powerful gateway to Korean culture overall. Netflix found that viewers who watch K-content are literally twice as likely, we're talking 58% versus 32% for non-viewers, to say they're interested in Korean culture in general.
That's fascinating. And that cultural interest must translate into other economic benefits, like tourism.
Absolutely. It flows directly into tourism. It's huge. A massive 67%, two-thirds of Netflix members who watch K-content say they're interested in visiting Korea.
67%.
Yeah, and it's fun, specific things, too. Like, you know how characters are always eating ramen by the Han River in dramas?
Haha, yeah, it's practically mandatory.
Well, that specific activity has actually become a bucket list item for tourists from all over the world, purely because they saw it in a K-drama. It's amazing.
Okay, this all sounds fantastic, like an unstoppable success train. But this is where the conversation gets a bit more complicated, doesn't it? The big question is this level of success actually sustainable?
And that leads us straight into the structural crisis brewing beneath the surface. Behind the massive success, there's this ticking time bomb: cost inflation. The average cost to produce one single episode of a K-drama has soared. We're talking between KRW 1 billion and KRW 3 billion.
Which is what, in US dollars?
That can be up to around 2.2 million US dollars for one episode.
Wow, okay, $2.2 million per episode. That must put unbelievable pressure on the production companies.
unimaginable pressure, and that enormous cost burden is forcing a contraction in the market. We're seeing it already. Since early 2023, the big global streamers have actually cut back on commissioning new Korean scripted shows by a pretty alarming 43%.
43%. That's a huge drop.
It is, and we're seeing fewer domestic Korean dramas being made, too.
Right.
It peaked around 141 titles in 2022, but the estimate for 2024 is down to about 107.
So the whole industry is feeling the squeeze.
Yeah.
And that pressure forces studios into that really risky strategy of making fewer but bigger hits, right? Where every single show has to be a massive success because failure is just too expensive.
Precisely. And this is where we hit the really tough issue, maybe even a social justice issue. Who's actually benefiting from all this money sloshing around? Which brings us right to the urgent problem of creator compensation.
Ah, right. The Squid Game example is just the perfect kind of shocking illustration of this, isn't it?
It's the starkest example, yeah. You have a show like Squid Game, which reportedly generated something like $160 million in value for Netflix, an astronomical success. Yet the key creators, the director, the writer, reportedly received zero extra payment in the form of residuals or IP usage fees for that global success.
Okay, hang on. We should clarify residuals for listeners who might not know.
Good point. So residuals are essentially payments that creative teams, like writers and directors, are supposed to receive when a show they worked on is rerun, sold internationally, or streamed successfully over time. It's how creators share in the long-term value they created.
Right. It's standard practice in many places.
It is. But in the current Korean system, particularly with global streaming deals, those back-end payments for these massive international hits are often just zero, non-existent.
That is genuinely shocking. It means this global phenomena, this multi-billion-dollar industry, is essentially built on the success generated by creators who aren't fully sharing in that success, it feels like. Subsidized labor.
The reality on the ground can be even starker. There are reports that many talented directors, even those who've helmed successful shows, have an average annual salary of only around KRW 18 million. That's roughly $13,600 US.
$13,000. That's below minimum wage for full-time work in many places.
It is. The system often gives the vast majority of the intellectual property rights and the profit participation to the production studios and the streaming platforms, leaving the original creators quite vulnerable.
So what does this all mean then? It sounds like the current model is just socially unsustainable. You can't build a long-term industry if the very talent creating the hits can't afford to, well, live. This amazing success story is structurally propped up by potentially exploiting the creators.
That's the core problem. And that real fear of a talent drain writers and directors leaving the industry because they can't make a living is forcing the industry to look for changes fast.
Okay, so what are they doing? How are they trying to adapt?
Well, first, to manage the huge financial risk of these high-cost dramas, studios are strategically diversifying. They're increasing production of non-scripted content, things like reality shows, variety programs which generally cost less to make.
Makes sense. Spreading the risk.
Yeah.
What else?
The second big shift is towards global co-production. It's moving from being a nice-to-have to basically a strategic necessity.
To share those massive costs.
Exactly. Co-producing with international partners helps share the financial burden and the risk, while still aiming for that high production quality everyone expects. You see major players like CJ through Studio Dragon actively becoming global production hubs now.
So not just selling Korean shows to the world, but making shows with the world.
Precisely. They're co-producing global non-Korean shows too, like Big Door Prize for Apple TV.
Okay.
It's an evolution.
That's a smart diversification strategy. Looking ahead, is technology playing a role? You hear a lot about AI.
AI is definitely being explored as a potential way to tackle that crippling cost inflation. It's not just hype. There are practical applications, especially in post-production.
Like what?
Things like speeding up dubbing and localization, automating parts of quality control, maybe even helping with initial script breakdowns. The AI market related to media is projected to grow massively by 2033. The hope is it can streamline workflows and maybe take some pressure off those huge per-episode costs.
Okay, interesting. So let's try and wrap this all up. Bring this deep dive home.
All right. So I think the two big takeaways for you, our listeners, are these. First, K-content's global dominance was achieved through this incredible combination of creative brilliance and being in the right place at the right time with OTT platforms. That's Hallyu 3.0.
Unmatched creativity meets global distribution.
Exactly. But second, and maybe more importantly going forward, the long-term health of this whole ecosystem hinges entirely on solving these twin crises.
Right.
The runaway production costs, and critically, creating a fair and sustainable system of compensation for the writers and directors who are the heart of it all.
Right. Which leads us to a pretty provocative thought to end on, doesn't it?
I think so.
Here it is for you to think about. If the Korean government, the studios, the global platforms don't find a way to reform things, especially around intellectual property and residuals, to properly reward the creators who built this wave, could this incredible creative energy actually dry up in the next few years? Seriously, what happens to the global K-content machine when the talent that powers it can no longer afford to work? That's the big question we leave you with today. And finally, one last reminder, please hit subscribe, give us that like, and turn on your notifications. We'll be back next time with another fascinating deep dive. This has been Dexter and Claire from Story Radio Station. Thanks for listening.